intimate experience that this isn't New York or Chicago or Los Angeles or San Diego or Miami or Orlando, and never will be. What we can do, and we can do better than anyone, is that intimate connection with animals, and that really is our business. And those skits and whatnot, that even if it's a little tiny owl, but it's the real things there in front of an 8-year-old, has very powerful impact.
Why are zoos important?
Zoos are, for most of the population of the United States and a significant part of the population worldwide of people, they are the only real connection that they have to nature. And the vast majority of people, even in the United States, one of the wealthiest countries, the vast majority of the people here will never travel outside of the United States. They have an opportunity to actually get some understanding of what Africa is, what it looks like, and what the nature in Africa is by seeing our Wild Africa exhibit. Standing in front of kangaroos and seeing what the real thing looks like. Kangaroos are odd animals, unless of course you're Australian, but and just seeing this magnificent beast, and that is that connection to nature, that our mission is to nurture empathy, understanding, and conservation of nature. And we do that by connecting people with live animals. It's also a great opportunity for families to recreate. Families and other groups. Very few people go to zoos alone. And it's a both neutral and stimulating environment for interaction of any age people at any level. So we have lots of people who have challenges with life, and I think the greatest group I see is particularly at Zubu, we see a lot of young couples. This is 13, 14, 15-year-old, boys and girls coming to the zoo on a date, and I think it's a great place for them to do that. Again, it's a neutral environment, lots of things to talk about, but it's safe.
Greg, let's talk a little bit about coyotes.
Yeah.
And I wanted to, while you're here, ask you about that, tap into your expertise a little. You have some coyotes at the zoo?
We do not. We don't have any on exhibit, and we actually had a pair of pups that were, 3 pups that were brought in the other day.
Somebody just brought them by, and
somebody dumped them. Yeah. Well, they didn't dump them. They'd found them along the road. They claimed the mother was dead, had been hit on the road, and they heard the yipping and brought them in. Their eyes weren't even open yet, little brown bundles of fur. We immediately placed those out with a state licensed wildlife rehab person. So because we don't intend, at least in the near term, to be displaying coyotes. We've worked a lot with the close relative wolves,
okay.
The Mexican wolves, which is the subspecies that was extinct in the wild and is now coming back, and we've been instrumental in that program in the southwestern U.S. and northwestern Mexico. So that's been a major effort of ours, but coyotes just, we have to make a lot of decisions as to what animals best fit and serve our mission.
So you have the Mexican
gray wolf, yes.
And you have you had wild dogs?
African wild dogs or hunting dogs. They're actually, although we call them wild dogs, they're certainly not domestic dogs, and they're not very closely related to them. Wolves and coyotes are much more closely related to domestic dogs. And African wild dogs or African hunting dogs, they're also called painted dogs, which is a good description because of the blotchy black and brown and yellow and tan. They are only found in open plains of Africa, and they really are not very closely related to any of the other canids. They're sort of out there in a strange group all by themselves. But yeah, so that actually those are the only members of the canid family that we have are the wolves. And now, we certainly have coyotes living around the park.
And we
just not that we're deliberately feeding.
And coyotes are indigenous to Michigan.
They are, particularly southwestern Michigan. So your district, Senator, that
Coyote capital.
Coyote capital. Coyotes have probably been very likely been indigenous to southwestern Michigan since before European involvement in the state. So and there were also bison and prairie dogs in some open areas of southwestern Michigan. So this was sort of a very edge of plains kind of territory, and certainly coyotes were here. There's not much evidence that coyotes were in upper or lower peninsula or the UP before that, but they are now. They're now they are now in every county in the state. More common actually in the UP and the upper half of the lower peninsula, but they are found everywhere.
And they've adapted well then to man's developments and presence, apparently.
I would say extremely well. They've taken full advantage of the changes that we humans have made in the environment, and it has been ideal for them. We've eliminated their primary predator, the wolves, and we have opened up space so there's more rabbits. There's very likely more rodents because of our grain and all those sorts of things, which are food supply. There's certainly a vast supply of garbage and edible waste that humans have all over the place, and those are means of food supply. So, and in some cases, domestic animals that are food supply. But yeah, coyotes are definitely located throughout this whole area, and we hear them at night. I live outside of Union City, down just inside Branch County, and we hear them at night there commonly.
You're more likely to hear them than to see them.
Far more likely to hear them. I've only seen them a couple of times in the wild in southwest Michigan. I've seen them dead on the road several times where they've been hit. And as a matter of fact, I studied coyotes and wolves in graduate school, in coyote and wolf behavior. So, and at that time in the early to mid 70s, the first identified coyote in the state of Connecticut, where I was going to graduate school, actually was identified in the state. So they've now moved into all of New England, and their territory has actually expanded as European settlement, post-European settlement, have changed North America, and their population has expanded dramatically to all the way from Alaska down probably most of the way to Mexico, and then east all the way through New England and southern Canada. I'm not sure they're in the southeastern U.S., the far southeastern, but certainly all of the Great Lakes area is now coyotes.
Are they dangerous or hazardous at all?
If you're a mouse, they're extremely dangerous. Coyotes, I did a little investigation. There's one unverified attack on a human that I found from the early 1900s in Michigan.
Huh.
Pretty thin. They have attacked humans in other states, but in most cases they're due to the humans socializing them. That is, by feeding them.
Sure.
You know, people who feed deer and other things, and some people feed raccoons and coyotes and whatnot, and then they become accustomed to it, and they think, oh, it's become tame and it likes me. Well, it doesn't like or dislike you. Coyotes are hardwired to be wild, to succeed that way, and if there's a free buffet, they're going to take advantage of it over time. And also, if you're feeding your dogs or cats outside and leaving the food out there, coyotes, just as with raccoons, possums, and everything else, will come in and take from that food. But as to them being a danger to walking in the woods, absolutely not. The chances of you ever seeing a coyote walk in the woods are so close to zero that they may be aware of your presence, but coyotes are extremely successful in